The next morning, Johnny reached out to his assistant, Sam, who had worked with him for years and knew his heart better than most. "Sam," Johnny said, sipping his coffee, "I want to buy coats for the homeless. Not just a few, hundreds, maybe more." Sam, though accustomed to Johnny's unconventional ideas, was momentarily taken aback. "That's incredible, Johnny, but how do you plan to do it?" Johnny's eyes lit up with determination. "I'll need your help. We'll visit every store in the city if we have to, whatever it takes." Over the next few days, Johnny and his team quietly set the plan into motion. They started with local clothing stores, purchasing as many heavy winter coats as they could find. Johnny insisted on quality. These coats needed to be warm and durable, not just symbolic gestures. Word began to spread among the staff at the stores, and soon employees were pitching in to help. Some even offered discounts when they realized what Johnny was doing. One store manager, a middle-aged woman named Clara, was particularly moved. "You don't see this kind of kindness every day," she said, tears welling in her eyes as Johnny loaded yet another stack of coats into a van. "Thank you for doing this." Johnny's response was humble. "It's the least I can do. No one should have to suffer in this cold." As the days passed, the operation grew. Johnny's team coordinated with local shelters and outreach organizations to identify areas where the coats were most needed. Volunteers joined in, helping to distribute the garments. The act of kindness began to take on a life of its own, drawing people together in a shared mission of compassion. One of the most poignant moments came when Johnny himself joined the distribution effort. Dressed in a simple coat and beanie, he blended into the crowd, personally handing out coats to those in need. At one stop, he met a young boy named Marcus, who couldn't have been more than 8 years old. Marcus's mother, a weary woman with worry etched into her face, thanked Johnny profusely as he helped the boy try on a bright red coat. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "This means more than you know." Johnny knelt down to Marcus's level, adjusting the coat's hood. "Stay warm, buddy," he said with a smile. The boy's eyes lit up, and for a moment, the harshness of their reality seemed to fade. Throughout the city, similar scenes unfolded. The recipients weren't just given coats. They were given dignity, hope, and a reminder that someone cared. And while Johnny's presence didn't go unnoticed, he never sought recognition. To him, this was about humanity, not headlines. By the end of the week, nearly 500 coats had been distributed. But for Johnny, it didn't feel like the end of something. It felt like the beginning of a journey. As the city warmed slightly in the late afternoon sun, he found himself reflecting on the deeper meaning of the act. It wasn't just about the coats or the immediate relief they provided. It was about connection, empathy, and the ripple effect that a single act of kindness can create. As news of his effort quietly began to spread, more people reached out to him. Letters arrived at his management's office from across the country. One woman, who had been homeless for years before finding shelter, wrote, "What you did shows that people care. When I was out there, it felt like no one even saw me. Thank you for seeing them." Encouraged by the response, Johnny began to think about how he could do more. The Code Initiative had shown him the power of small, direct actions, but it also opened his eyes to the systemic challenges that the homeless face. He started having conversations with advocates and nonprofit leaders, learning about the root causes of homelessness and the gaps in support systems. One evening, he sat down with Clara, the store manager who had first been moved by his efforts. Clara shared her own story, how she had once struggled to keep her family warm during a particularly harsh winter when money was tight. "That's why I had to help," she said, "because I've been there, and I know what a difference even a small act of kindness can make." Johnny nodded, his mind racing with ideas. He realized that while he had started with coats, there were so many other ways to make an impact, from funding shelters to creating programs that helped people transition out of homelessness. The more he learned, the more determined he became to keep the momentum going. Weeks turned into months, and Johnny's mission continued to evolve. He began collaborating with local organizations to distribute not just coats, but also blankets, sleeping bags, and even care packages filled with essentials like socks, gloves, and hygiene products. He also started hosting small fundraisers, using his influence to rally support for shelters and outreach programs. One particularly memorable event took place in the same park where he had first seen the shivering man on the bench. Johnny worked with a local nonprofit to organize a winter festival for the homeless community. There were food trucks serving hot meals, live music, and stations where people could pick up warm clothing and supplies. Johnny was there from start to finish, greeting people, sharing stories, and making sure everyone felt welcome. Among the attendees was Marcus and his mother. Marcus, now wearing the same red coat Johnny had given him, ran up to him with a drawing he had made. It was a picture of a man handing out coats under a starry sky. "It's you," Marcus said proudly. Johnny smiled, deeply moved. "I'll treasure this forever," he said, carefully tucking the drawing into his pocket. By the end of the festival, Johnny couldn't help but feel a profound sense of fulfillment. He had started with a simple idea, to buy coats, but it had grown into something much larger, something that touched countless lives and brought people together in a shared spirit of compassion. As the city thawed with the approach of spring, the story of Johnny Depp's generosity lived on. It wasn't just about the coats. It was about the power of compassion and the difference one person can make. And for Johnny, it was a reminder that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can have the greatest impact. It was also a call to action, a realization that there was still so much work to be done, and he was ready to take it on, one step at a time.